Welcome to A Course in Miracles, where you'll discover health and well-being through inner peace. Your host is Eloisa Ramos, EFT Master and author of Beyond Self-Esteem, Discovering Your Boundless Self-Worth. Using EFT, the Ramos clearing technique, and the principles of A Course in Miracles, you'll learn how to open your mind to healing and to all that is inherently yours: deep fulfillment, vitality, joy, and inner peace.
Hello, and welcome everyone to today's program. It's titled Truth or Fiction, The Truth Seeker, with A Course in Miracles, Lessons 103 to 116. My name is Eloisa Ramos, and today we will be exploring what the ego thought system is from the point of view of A Course in Miracles, of course, and why it is considered fiction or illusion. We're also going to just talk a little bit about what a truth seeker is aiming for when they want to find the truth. I also want to help you understand what some of our fears are to opening up to our mind to truth and where they're coming from to help you release them. For those of you that know EFT, you understand that the process of working with EFT tapping takes you layer by layer into releasing what is not the truth, so that when we are done with the release, our perception is clear. So in preparing for this program, I was reviewing the lessons, and I wanted to be able to help you connect to the powerful and profound truth that's found there. However, I realized that this connection is not something I can just explain to you, because the part of the mind that resonates or connects to truth is our higher mind or spiritual self. But the conceptual mind is the one that would be processing any explanation that I'd be giving you. This part of our mind, the conceptual thinking mind that holds definitions and labels and associations, is not capable of understanding something that's not a concept. So truth with a TH is a knowing that contains certainty. It's not a concept that is subject to its definition and to the agreed upon conventional use of that definition, and to its subjective nature, because definitions can change through time, and we see that in culture today. You know, a lot of the kids nowadays will use expressions like, "That is so sick," and now sick is no longer a bad thing. It's actually a great thing. So we can use concepts or words and give them different meaning. That's what I'm trying to say. Truth, on the other hand, with a TH, does not change, and it contains. It is not connected to through the comparing process that the conceptual mind goes through. And so our conceptual mind is basically considered the ego thought system, and it knows things only through comparisons. So what I'm going to do today is just share my experiences to illustrate how I have experienced truth, and in particular, how a simple thought like the one in Lesson 109, I rest in God, has the power to shift problem areas in your life and release us from struggle and fear. And I'd like to quote from that lesson. "Here is the end of suffering for all the world, and everyone who ever came and yet will come to linger for a while. I rest in God. Completely undismayed, this thought will carry you through storms and strife, past misery and pain, past loss and death, and onward to the certainty of God. There is no suffering it cannot heal. Okay? And that's a lot to try to take in and understand for the conceptual mind. Because how could this one simple thought heal all suffering? It's inconceivable. And that's why the lessons from A Course in Miracles need to be applied or put into practice. That's why they are set up as a daily lesson. And they need to be applied as consistently as possible, and also with persistence. We really have to want to get to the truth. And this is how we come to see the power that's connected to them and the powerful healing effects that they have on on ourselves, on our lives. So, to help you connect to this, I'd like to start by sharing how I work with the resistance to truth that shows up for me. Because, as Lesson 107 says, truth will correct all the errors in my mind. But, okay, first I need to want to bring these errors to truth. And I need to be aware when I'm being directed or guided by my incorrect thinking. A Course in Miracles refers to error as ego thoughts. It says, quote, "The ego is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own." So basically, any thought that implies that we are on our own, separate from Source, is an ego thought. I also want to point out that the ego is a belief that our mind made and continues to believe in. You could say that ego thoughts talk back to their maker, the mind. So, for example, if I believe that making mistakes means I'm stupid, okay, that's my belief. My mind came up with that conclusion. It made that association. Okay? It may not be true for somebody else, but it is for my mind because I believe that it's true. Okay? Well, now that I believe it's true, anytime I make a mistake, okay, this thought will come up to my conscious mind and say to me, "You are stupid," because that's what my mind associated mistakes to. Okay? So these ego thoughts talk to us and tell us what we think about ourselves and others and the world. But just remember that it's our thinking talking back to us. It's our perception of ourselves that's talking back to us. It's what we have accepted as true, but they're basically thoughts that maybe came from others or that we concluded on our own. And they're only giving us information that we put there in the first place. Okay, this is not knowledge, as A Course in Miracles uses the term, because this information is made up subjectively by our own mind. Even if we learned those conclusions from others, or others just made them up too. It's basically a story that we have made up about ourselves. It's fiction. This is why A Course in Miracles emphasizes that we must unlearn everything we have taught ourselves. And this is what requires effort on our part because we hold these ideas about ourselves very closely. We have come to see them as true. And it's not easy to let go of believing something that you think is true. they have actually become a part of how we see ourselves or our identity. And we will feel resistance when we want to bring them to truth, even if they are incorrect, and we can logically see that they are incorrect. We're still going to feel resistance. The Course in Miracles, A Course in Miracles says that, quote, many stand guard over their ideas because they want to protect their thought systems as they are, and learning means change. Change is always fearful to the separated because they cannot conceive of it as a move towards healing the separation. You believe that if you allow no change to enter into your ego, you will find peace. The ego is a contradiction. Yourself and God's self are in opposition. They are opposed in source, in direction, and in outcome. They are fundamentally irreconcilable because spirit cannot perceive and the ego cannot know. Nevertheless, the ego can learn, even though its maker can be misguided. Spirit need not be taught, but the ego must be. Learning is ultimately perceived as frightening because it leads to the relinquishment, not the destruction of the ego, to the light of spirit, unquote. Okay, so there's a lot there, but fundamentally, the aim of the truth seeker is to follow right guidance or the light of spirit. And the Course in Miracles also calls it the voice for God. And I want to give you an illustration of how we want to be vigilant to not follow the voice of ego. So last week, my husband and I were helping our daughter move. Excuse me. And we wanted to replace the fluorescent light bulbs that were in her bathroom, and they're the long ones. So he took them down, and I grabbed the first one, and I thought, I wonder how long it is, and I put it standing up next to my body to see if I could, figure that out. And as soon as I did that, this thought just said to me, it's 36 inches. And so I said that to my husband. Oh, it's 36 inches. And so we went to buy the light bulbs, and we went into the store, and there were some sales clerks there, and they asked my husband, "Oh, can we help you?" And he said, "Oh, can you tell me how long this light bulb is?" And I didn't even wait for him. I started walking to the lighting aisle. Okay. But I did hear the sales clerk say to him, "Oh, it's 48 inches." Okay. So when we were at the lighting aisle, my husband pulls down the package with two lights in there. I do the same thing. I take it and I put it next to my body, and I say, "Oh, this is too long." Okay, so then my husband says, "Okay, well, why don't we double check?" Because we had brought the old ones with us, but we had left them in the front where they recycle them. So he says, "Let's just go and measure them to make sure." And so he starts walking, and I'm following him. And as we're walking, I intuitively sensed, that those lights were the right size, even though they were not 36 inches. And I had that intuition because this is not the first time that I have been wrong. And so when we got there and he measured the light bulb, and he said, "Oh, no, they're the same size. They're 48 inches." Okay. I started feeling uncomfortable. Okay, now it didn't surprise me that I had been wrong. Okay, but I noticed there was a little bit of shame. I was feeling a little bit of shame, and so I turned to that feeling, and I noticed that it was saying, it was almost there was almost a slight ridicule there, like, oh, you got egg on your face, okay? And so I started tapping. I started tapping on that feeling and on, oh, I have egg on my face. And so I noticed, as I did the rounds, that I was feeling like my thinking had let me down. Something like, darn it, it's not all-knowing. It's supposed to be, but it's not. And my husband noticed I was tapping, and he asked, what are you tapping on? And so I told him that I realized I had given trust to something that told me those light bulbs were 36 inches, when it did not really know with certainty. I said, I don't want to keep giving my trust to that. But what really concerned me most about my experience was that when I looked back at what had transpired, is that I saw that I had followed this advice completely mindlessly, without questioning that thought at all. And looking back at the situation, I saw myself almost like following orders, like in a trance, almost like hypnotized. And it was that idea that these were 36 inches had so much. I don't think I want to use the word authority, but they had such conviction that it was almost like I had to blindly obey. So I focused. So I started tapping, and this time I focused on